So today's topic is how can we help you with your SAP integration challenges? Okay, so as we're going through this, please can you have a think about, do you know how many IDocs you have in your business? And what problems does this cause to your business and your operations? Okay. So today's webinar outcomes, what we're looking to talk through and to get everyone visibility of is what we're going to talk today about our IDoc management console and how that can benefit your business in terms of some of these areas. Okay, so one of the big key things is remove reliance on IT. So take it, SAP, as everyone's quite aware, it can be very complex, can be lots of acronyms, can be difficult and complex to understand. It's how we can remove the reliance on IT and put it into the hands of business users. Okay, and the focus is around increasing that overall supply chain efficiency. So with that in mind, we have a number of live customers already with IDoc Management Console, and some of our customers have taken the solution and they're getting these benefits from the IDoc Management Console. So we take an example of a food and drinks manufacturer. One of the key benefits they saw was around reprocessing of IDocs from 5 minutes to 30 seconds and the cost savings that are associated to that. And an automotive manufacturer, it was around quick resolution to avoid production line downtime and maintaining that they can keep that production time uptime and the impact, that operational impact too. So just a couple of introductions. So today we have on the call myself, Jeff Graham, the product manager with the config team. I come from an SAP consulting background, implementing the core supply chain modules of IM, WM, and EWM. My role and responsibility within the config team is as product manager to manage all our software solutions, and that comes from product development to delivery of the products. I'm also joined by Mark Bowden, who's one of our IDoc management console leads, and Mark comes from a wealth of experience with SAP and operations, especially specializing in interfaces connecting SAP to third-party systems. So just to, what we're going to walk through today is just give everyone an overview of the topics. So we're going to talk a bit about who we are as an organization. We're then going to talk about interface, integrating SAP to third-party applications. We'll then cover off what IDoc Management Console is, a demonstration, the features and benefits. We'll talk a bit about innovation, and then at the end we'll summarize and have a session for Q&A. So the config team, we're a UK-based organization. We are focused on the supply chain, so we're complete supply chain specialists, and that's our core competency. We've got 130 people in our team, and that's spanned across 3 different areas within our business. So we have an SAP consultancy, implementing SAP solutions, whether that's IM, WM, or EWM, or providing best practice and advice going into existing SAP operations and looking at ways to improve. Okay, and that expands into S/4HANA business transformations too. We also, for everything that we supply, we have our support team, and that's focused around supply chain support, but also wider modules as well. And that's 24/7 because we have, although we're UK based, we have an operation down in Australia too. And where we're focused today is around our product side. So we've got 3 core products of the config team. We have our pre-built mobile solution for the SAP supply chain. So that's real-time connection back to SAP, providing a simple to use, intuitive mobile front end, and doing things like goods receiving, picking, packing, loading, dispatching back to SAP. That's really highly configurable and flexible as well. We've got coding control, our IoT product. This connects SAP to production line devices like primary, secondary pallet labeling and much more. And that's all around taking manual intervention from the production line and using SAP as the key to drive that down to the lines. And then we have IDoc Management Console, which is what we're going to talk about today. As an organization, we're really focused on innovation. We work with a number of leading hardware manufacturers and other companies to identify use cases with our customer base and provide the right solution to the right solution to the right problem for a customer. And it's all around providing that business value, which we're focused on. We do have a complete dedicated product development team. So this is, the core focus of this team is to identify gaps in SAP, to provide that easy to use, simple interface to SAP, and providing solutions that focus on time to value. So out of the box, flexible, extensible, and can you work with a number of different types of SAP systems. So we're going to look at third-party system integration. So just to, what we're seeing as a general theme in the industry, what the problems are, and then how we can hopefully help in this area. So if we just look at a typical integration landscape with SAP. So we've got SAP on the left, we've got integration platforms, and then we've got a whole host of different types of applications that can be interfaced into SAP. And this can be really complex, it can be really messy. There's all these different messages coming in and out of SAP all over the place. So just to give you some examples, this could be analytic platforms, it could be CRM, it could be IoT, it could be logistics providers, it could be MES systems, and all these require interfaces that have messages interacting with SAP. And that can have a significant consequence if these messages fail. So what are the typical ERP integration challenges? So if we look at on the left-hand side, integration can be very complex, it can be expensive, and it can be time-consuming. There can be a lot of gaps in availability with integration platforms, and also there's a minefield of different platforms to integrate to. This area is really complex, and it's also very expensive. And we have, as an organisation, been working very heavily with Gartner to identify and understand what people are looking for, what the challenges are, and where the industry is going. And if we look at that comment at the bottom, this is all around if the integration with SAP is not done properly, this can result in a delayed benefit, and that is prevalent in at least 50% of SAP S/4HANA initiatives. So where do we come in? So as a config team, we simplify the complex. With our background in integration with SAP, we've got extensive knowledge and people in our team that understand this area really deeply. And through our consulting services, we understand how to build and design, build, and deploy interfaces with SAP. Second to that, we also have our IDoc Management Console product that provides visibility of these interfaces. And Mark shortly will talk more about that. But what we as an organization look to do is simplify the complex, providing simplified integration to SAP, not having leaky pipes, is an analogy that we use, in essence, making sure that there is robust integration between those systems that work for the business and for the operational teams. So I'm just going to hand over to Mark now, who's going to take us through the IDoc Management Console.
Yeah, thanks for that, Jeff. That's awesome. So yeah, I think first of all, I'd like to start by giving you just a little bit of a background of where I come from in the industry. So historically, I worked for a large food manufacturer with a 70,000 pallet warehouse, which was interfaced back to SAP via IDocs. I kind of hit the ground running with IDocs, so I was put in charge of the IDocs for that particular warehouse about 6 weeks before I met SAP as a system. So it was kind of thrown in at the deep end, and the tool that we were given was the IDoc Management Console. So I speak from experience when I can talk about how useful this tool has been for me. Now you're going to think I'm not a technical person. I'm on the floor in the warehouse, so it was working closely with warehouse staff, working closely with finance teams on site and things like that to get the job done and get the IDocs fixed in the biggest, most efficient way possible. So let's look at some of the IDoc business challenges that you might meet on a day-to-day basis. Quickly jump over. So looking at some of the business challenges, so typically a lot of my examples, obviously because of my experience in 3PL, are going to come from third-party logistics, but I probably should reiterate at this point, this IDoc tool can be implemented anywhere across the business where IDocs are used. But in my experience, things like inaccurate stock levels, stock exists in the warehouse but isn't shown on the SAP system, missing orders that the warehouse are unable to action, delays in invoices. A big one for us was missing customs declarations. If you're unable to process PIC confirmation of orders, potentially customs declarations can't be printed out. Things get stuck at borders. Unhappy customers, if we're unable to send advanced shipping notifications to customers, there is a possibility that some, depending on agreements, may fine based off that. So, you know, this is good examples of maintaining good, healthy IDoc systems helps all these things, you know, that it keeps things running smoothly, and you stop that snowball effect where you're getting things like receipts have failed, therefore stock adjustments have failed, therefore PICs have failed, therefore invoicing has failed, and so on and so forth. So what the IDoc management console does is it sits in the SAP system alongside the standard IDoc tools, but expands a little bit. It basically gives a nice user-friendly introduction to IDocs, and a nice one-pager effectively would be my way of working for the day. It kind of reduces the technicality and leads the users by the hands to resolve the IDocs themselves rather than relying on the IT support that a lot of businesses tend to use. So you're reducing your resolution time and you're getting the right fix for the right IDoc as well, because you know, nobody knows the stock like the guys in the warehouse in the case of a 3PL, and nobody can fix it like they can fix it, you know. And also you get the trend analysis. So if you've got a situation in the business where one particular IDoc is falling over again and again and again, you very quickly get a visual on your trend analysis on using the IDoc tool. You can see there where your issues lie. You can very quickly start to get some improvements in there and stop those IDocs even potentially occurring in the first place. And all that leads to increased operational efficiency. Higher right first time on your IDocs means things are going to run smoothly, the warehouse runs smoothly, or the orders come into the system much more smoothly, that sort of thing. So the tool we provide is it's a configurable framework. So we provide all the basics, and then we work with your business to then improve that tool for your business. So we can customize this to work for you very quickly. You know, we can configure multiple versions of the same tool in the same system. So you know, different areas of your business will have a different view. The tool is SAP certified, so if you got the SAP marketplace, you can see there's information about it on the marketplace, and it can be deployed in days. So you can start to see the benefits really quickly, and we can start to work with you to just build on those benefits and really work towards to making it like more efficient for your business. And as you can see there at the bottom, we have started to look at Fiori tools for this as well, integration with Fiori to really take this to the next level as well. Some of the example uses that we see for the IDoc management console. So obviously I'm like a stuck record talking about 3PL integration. That's where I cut my teeth to SAP. So that's what I know quite well. But you know, automation integration, IDocs are used there, sales and finance, you know, master data, things like that. Basically anywhere in the business, IDocs are available. We can configure the tool to help you fix those IDocs in a more efficient manner. Looking at the tool when compared to SAP standards, SAP standards tools are very technical. There's a lot of acronyms, a lot of field names, things like that. We try to reduce that technical level somewhat. So we're trying to give things a bit of a nicer front end for end users to use. Nice clarity there as well. We don't rely quite so much on the multiple transactions. So, you know, you get a WLF IDoc, WL2, BD87, but then going beyond that into like the SAP transactions you might use on a day-to-day basis. For me, things like VL32N, ME23N, that sort of thing. We try to reduce the complex user interface, and we try to expand on the audit trail that SAP standard tools have. We got some nice commenting features, which we'll show you in some demos in a little while. And yeah, again, we're just trying to remove the reliance on technical resource and bring it back to the guys in the warehouse or back to the guys in the office to help the people who are, you know, invested in those IDocs being correct, being the guys that resolve the IDocs. So, you know, it is time consuming to resolve and reprocess the IDocs, and our intention is to try and speed that up as well by leading the users by the hand towards where the issue may lie. So with regards to demos, I have 4 demos today, 2 of which will be in SAP GUI and 2 of which will be in Fiori. The first of which is a goods receipt demo. So in this example, we've got a situation where stock doesn't exist on the SAP system, but does exist in the warehouse system. As a result, that stock can't be acted upon in the SAP system. Orders maybe can't be placed against it. Stock adjustments maybe can't occur against it, that sort of thing. And in this situation, we're going to jump into the IDoc console. Straight away, we've got a standard selection screen here. This one has plant creation date, IDoc number, that sort of thing against it, inbound delivery. We can configure and customize this for your business needs. So if you wanted handling unit in there or outbound delivery, you could go and search those. But in this case, we're going to just jump into a variant we've got and run that to some known data. Just quickly run that. And the first thing the user is greeted with once that is run is a picture of the entire IDoc business for this particular area of the business, in this case 3PL. We've got some inbounds, some outbounds, and so on. We've got first run, second run for that right first time, total successful, total failed. In this case, we've got 2 in the error queue, 2 failed. We're going to jump in there and take a look. So there's 2 IDocs there. We've got additional data being pulled through from the IDoc just to guide the user a little bit. And there is a comment against that first one that suggests one of my colleagues is perhaps looking at that. So maybe I don't need to worry about it. In this case, we're going to take a look. We can go straight into the delivery from this point using one of our hotspots, which we can work with you to develop. Look directly at the delivery, see 100 eaches has been raised for that ASN, and then jump into the IDoc itself. Here we've got the status records for the IDoc, the most recent one being the error that we're currently dealing with. We can display the IDoc at this point, so we can show a bit more information other than the standard fields here. But we can drop out of there and maybe look at a few more of the additional features that the IDoc management console has. So straight away, we can use that add comment functionality. So we're looking at this one now. We don't want anyone else to stand on our toes or perhaps double up on work. So we'll leave a message to say that we're looking at this. We could also now set this to status 68 here. That would be no further action required. All the job tasks done by the IDoc have been resolved. But I quite like the display data functionality. So if we click on the display data functionality, we get a report that comes back, and it starts pulling the IDoc's item level information here. So some very simple things like material, quantity, it's all there available in the IDoc. I can see there's 105 eaches that has been received on that line. But what we can also do is we go a little bit further. You'll notice the delivery and the PO number are hotspots there. And additionally, we've actually pulled that information and purchase order from the system itself. They're not contained within the IDoc. We pulled them further from the system. And because it's a hotspot, we can then click in and jump straight into the purchase order. So we're not having to remember all those transactions. The link's there for us. And we can see that there's 100 each has been raised and no delivery tolerance in this case. So in this case, we'd probably, in the system, be maybe contacting purchasing now and say, we've got a problem with this purchase order. Could you take a look at it and resolve the issue for us? So some time passes and we find out that, good news, the purchase order has been resolved. We're back over at our IDoc and let's see what we can do. So if the purchase order has now been resolved, in theory, we should be able to reprocess this IDoc successfully. So we'll just back out of the display data and status screen and tap the reprocess button. And straight away, our new status is 53. That means that the IDoc has been successfully posted. The delivery has now been created, and that stock is now available and everything's good. And we're happy now. So there is a second demo here. This is more around sales and distribution. This is a customer order demo. So in this circumstance, we have customers sending messages to us containing orders, customer orders. And in this case, the customer order is not in the system, so we're unable to act on it. So we just jump in. At this point, we're actually already in the queue, in the error screen, but we have a situation where we've reduced things down, made it a little bit tidier. So we got rid of maybe some queues we don't want to, maybe some columns we don't want to see. And these are all SDE queues. We're not really concerned about the 3PL stuff quite so much. But we can see there's 2 inbound orders in error there. And the second one there, it looks like there's something wrong with that. Let's take a look at that one. And sure enough, we've got that standard information there again from the IDoc. We can double click and get the standard documentation to start getting us on the route to finding a cause of this error. And typically in this instance, we maybe contact the customer services team and say, look, we've found out the order's been sent to us, but they've miskeyed something perhaps. Could you confirm with the customer? And sure enough, it was a miskey. So in this case, we're back over in the error queue. And we're going to display the IDoc. At this point, we'd typically jump in there and make a change to the IDoc to correct. We could potentially get the customer to resend as well. Everything's been corrected and we hit reprocess again. And sure enough, status 53, the order's now been created. Another thing I quite like about the tool is we obviously get the feedback, but we have this little hotspot here just by the standard order that's been saved. If we click on that, we can then very quickly just jump over, double check that order, make sure everything's okay, and inform the team that they're good to go with that order now. So those are the two SAP GUI demonstrations we created for you. But we're going to move over now. We had quite a bit of interest in potentially moving some of the functionality of this tool into Fiori. And the first thing that occurred to us, we come at this from a two-pronged approach. Effectively two different channels to get the information that you might like to see. The first one is the analytics screen. So in Fiori, in this case, we developed a reporting tool which we see this as maybe being like a one-pager on a tablet or perhaps on a warehouse wall or an office wall, whereby the user can get a quick view of what's going on with the IDocs, where the errors and issues may lie, just keep an idea of your IDoc business and how things are doing. Here you can see there's ability to change filters, change transaction codes. If you have multiple consoles configured, you can select which one you'd like to see. But then we throw in additional filters, and then some bar charts and pie charts and some information there about successful failed IDocs. By interface and things like that. We can work with you basically to develop these and increase and basically what you want to see here we can get reports on. So the other tool we looked at doing was from a point of view of being more of somebody who's fixing these IDocs, me effectively back in the day. What could I benefit from in Fiori? So we kind of thought maybe we could put the tool itself in Fiori and the actual work can be done. You can start doing your investigation before you even log onto a PC. So you can start doing it from a tablet or a phone, or even at a PC without being logged into SAP. So in this case, we've got familiar features from the previous demonstrations here. We've got a list of IDocs there. We've got some nice bar charts to show which queues are currently behaving or misbehaving. We can click in and see the individual IDocs, see the status records, comments, reprocess, and change statuses directly in the tool. And the intention is from here, we could potentially go even further and then go to actual resolution of IDocs, or perhaps pass the user into SAP GUI and have them resolving IDocs at that point. So to recap, that is the 4 demonstrations there. We have the 2 SAP GUI, one for 3PL, one for S&D, and then the 2 Fiori analytical and Fiori actual IDoc management console demonstrations there. But let's quickly look at some of the features, recap on some of those features. So we got that user-friendly dashboard there, a nice front end for users to see. I would sit typically at my desk with that on the screen, refreshing it occasionally and getting in there. And I'd be straight away, I can see where the problems lie and get them fixed. It's a tailored user interface as well. So, I've previously mentioned, we'll work with you to improve the IDoc console for your business specifically. But we can also provide all the documentation. So if you want to take it and run, you can do that as well. We can display links through to other IDocs. Add in those comments for colleagues to see, so we're not both working on the same thing. Typically when maybe you're in quite a new warehouse, things are going live, or a new SAP system, you might have a lot more people involved with your IDocs while things are not quite at your business as usual level. The comments is really useful at that point. And the hotspots as well, if you've got new users quite new to SAP, not having to remember all the transactions, just clicking through and doing their investigations as quick as possible is really going to save time. I haven't covered it yet. We will cover it in a minute, but we can trigger alerts as well if IDocs reach certain levels. And we've got KPIs shown in the GUI there and the advanced KPIs we're looking at through the analytics. As far as business benefits here, we're looking at improved billing, things, if your IDocs are running smoother, things like that, that's the net outcome. And we're removing that reliance on IT by trying to put the onus of resolution of IDocs on the guys in the warehouse, on the guys in the office, that sort of thing. Potentially avoiding the need to outsource to get IDoc resolution. Less operational downtime. If you have a snowball situation with IDocs, you can start to get backstops where things start to fall over. Cranes and things like that can stop working because they aren't getting messages they expect to get. And reprocessing time reduced by more than 50%. We actually, towards the end, there is a QR code. If you'd like to scan that with your phones, it can take you to our YouTube channel where you'll see a direct comparison of this tool and SAP standard tools. So yeah, freeing up internal admin resource, enhanced brand reputation, less supplier fines, things like that, and increasing your supply chain ultimately. Some of the enhanced functionality that we've been working on, alerting and reporting. So we got the situation now where we can set trigger points. If your system allows it, we can send text messages. We can send emails, so a user can be alerted to IDocs hitting a certain level. I mean, this would have been fantastic for me back in the day doing weekend working, because you're not sat at a desk all day checking the IDocs. You get a text message, the IDocs is at a certain level, get on there and get it sorted. Simple configuration, as previously mentioned. We can provide you with all the documentation you need, or we can guide you by the hand and get things set up how you need to see them. And advanced analytics, so we don't cover so much in this demo, but we did mention pre-built. We are able to tie this into the pre-built system as well. So if you are a user of pre-built, you can set to see IDoc analytics on your devices. And also we have the Fiori front end as we showed there. So I'm going to hand you back to Jeff now, who's going to cover some of the innovation. This is a product that's continually in development, so we do come back to this, add features, and we take feedback and just improve it over time.
Thanks, Mark. It's a brilliant job that. So yeah, just to summarize, obviously, you know, we are constantly developing and improving all our products and the solutions of the config team. As we talked about before, we have a dedicated product development team. And some of the areas in the future that we're looking at is, at the moment, we are just looking at IDocs within SAP. But what we're looking to do is branch out so that it won't just be an IDoc management console, but an interface management console for SAP. So we're looking at the possibility of IDocs as we have today, but also adding the visibility of web services, RFCs, and other interfaces, so that we can encapsulate and look at all interfaces inside and outside of SAP. Okay. Another area that we're also looking at is artificial intelligence and machine learning. So instead of obviously someone having to manually reprocess or fix an IDoc, how do we automate that? How do we make it more systematic where we can? And that's some of the areas that we're starting to investigate here, to keep all those IDocs that, you know, what would be really nice is we never have a failed IDoc, but, you know, that's where the journey that we're working towards. Okay, so thanks everyone for listening to the webinar today. I think the PowerPoint screen's coming back on. It's just paused a second, maybe it's my network connection. But no, thank you very much for everyone who's attended the webinar today. You know, the key points really is making SAP as simple as possible to use, is removing that reliance on IT and putting it into the hands of the business users. I mean, a recent example that we've had as a company is that one of our customers has recently implemented this product because they were paying their IT staff overtime to support the operational team hours. And having this console, they were able to put it into their ops teams, who were able to take ownership of resolving their IDocs and not needing the IT teams to be able to resolve them. So that's just one example of many. But at this point, I'd really just like to say thank you for everyone for joining, and just to open the floor for any questions.
So I think while we're waiting to see if there's any more questions, a few people have asked some questions as we've been going through. So there's been a question about whether we can change the status codes to be more user friendly. So for example, instead of saying 53, it could stay successful. Is that something we're able to do? Yeah, so as of today, we have the ability, so when you hover over the icon, it will give you a tooltip to say 53, and this means it's successful. So that's available today. In our next release, we're also looking to make that more user-friendly as well, and to put, instead of the 53, to successful. So yeah, absolutely, it's a great point, and it's something that we've heard from some of our other customers as well. So we will be focusing on that in our next release. Perfect. And then we've had someone ask around whether the tool can be managed within specific functional areas, so customer service or logistics for errors in SD, so they can resolve the issue before escalating to IT. I think that's something that we've talked about, but just maybe clarify that point. Yeah, so like Mark talked about, this is a flexible framework. So what we can do is that we can have different views of the console. So we can say for a customer services area, you've got these IDoc interfaces, and they've got their own view to look at the errors, the success, the first time, second time runs. And then you can also have another view for your goods receipting area. So that's all capability of the products, and that can be
manage my roles and authorizations in SAP as to who can access and use that. Anything to add from you on that, Mark?
No, yeah, I mean, that's pretty succinct there, I think. As I said, my experience was in 3PL, but we have implemented this in other areas of businesses as well. And yeah, and it is nice to be able to sort of give a particular area of the business their own view of their own IDocs. They don't have to worry about all of them, which speeds things up a little bit.
Yeah, and just to emphasize, that's not for that. This is not development. This is configuring, customizing an SAP. Within 20 minutes, half an hour, you can set up a view and have a base to be able to see that in a development box.
And I guess following on from that point, Jeff, someone's asked about kind of training requirements and if each function will need training on error types and how to resolve them, or is there an element of kind of it being kind of an intuitive system?
On for you, Mark?
It's a really good question. So, I mean, typically, yeah. So you would need some on-the-ground training with, for example, a new implementation, perhaps, and some familiarity of the business and a little familiarity of actual changing of IDocs. But the idea is that this can be implemented as part of that training tool as well, and so the user is effectively then learning as they go using this tool about their interfaces. It's actually how I did it back in the day. So I went for, as I think I mentioned, 6 weeks. I went from never having seen an IDoc to effectively fixing all of them for a warehouse.
And just to add on to that as well is that this is fully documented. So we provide full installation, user guide, configuration guides, and then from a deployment approach, we can obviously work with you as to your needs. So we typically do a train the trainer approach, but we can also have much more hands-on training if required.
Perfect, thank you. And then is it possible to change the actual IDoc content using the console? So for example, if a sales order comes through with an incorrect material number, is it possible to actually change that within the console?
Yes, it is. So typically we would pass you through to a SAP standard tool there, but future developments, we are going to look at actually making changes to the IDoc from within the tool to further increase the ease of access to the end users.
Perfect. And then another one around automation. So if you had robotic processing automation in the customer service area, would that integrate with this to remove the need to having two consoles to resolve errors?
That's a great question.
Just repeat that question, Gemma.
So if you had an RPA in the customer service area, would we be able to integrate with that solution to remove the need of having two consoles to resolve the errors?
Obviously, yeah, it depends obviously on the integration to that, but obviously that's an SAP and it's IDocs, and it'll be one console. It just depends on what the interface and the integration would be. But we can discuss that and look at what the requirements are to provide a solution there.
Perfect. And then we've just had a few questions kind of all around the same sort of thing about the version of SAP that is needed and whether it kind of works with S/4HANA, etc. So can you just kind of clarify the SAP versions and what's needed?
Yeah, so ECC6 obviously works, very early enhancement packs on that, so we don't see that as a problem at all. And yet we have deployed this onto the latest release of S/4.2. Now the only point on that is on the pure, so that for the base QE side of things, there's no problem at all, whichever SAP version you use. But we just need to work through if you're interested in the Fury Analytics or the user view of that, then obviously there's some minimum enhancement packs for ECC6 that you'd require to do that. But we can have those discussions further.
And then, so I think someone's asked about dealing with material master IDocs.
Yeah. MapMass as an example.
and often have to compare against a successful IDoc to determine a field that's not being populated correctly.
Yeah, so the multiple ways to run the tool there. So you can run it to exclude errors or to include errors. Sorry, to show all errors only or to show all IDocs. So in that case, you would run it for your mass IDocs, and you could quite quickly jump into a successful IDoc from the tool there and see what's missing from your unsuccessful IDoc.
Perfect. And then I think we've had a question around integration with Fiori. So I know that was covered a little bit. If you want to just clarify kind of the Fiori integration, if that's okay.
Yeah, so we finally, after our years of experience in this area, we find that the primary use for resolving IDocs for the super users, the business users, we find the primary use is using the SAP GUI. Because they can jump into different transactions is what they're used to. But on the Fiori side, we've got two views. So we've got the ability to have a management view on the analytics that could sit on a wall board, that could sit on a handheld or a tablet device, and that's providing analytics around the IDocs themselves. And we do have a subset of functionality available on the user view as well. So for the things like the reprocessing, that type of thing. So there is that capability as well with what we've got here. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, I think so. So I think that's all the questions that we've had in so far. So thank you for that. There was some great questions there. Thank you everybody. But I think that's all of them. So unless anybody else has any other questions, I think we'll close it there. And if there is any questions as we're going through that we've not been able to answer, we will come back to everybody following the session as well, if any have been missed. But thank you to everybody for joining today. And we hope that was useful insight. Is there anything you want to add there, Jeff?
No, just thank you very much for everyone's attendance today. Hopefully you found this session interesting. The more, if you can provide any feedback into this, if it's interesting, if there's other areas to cover, we always want to improve as part of this. And then, if there is interested around IDocs, then just give us a shout. Let's talk it through. Let's see how we can help you. Okay, thank you very much, everyone. We'll close the call there.